Welcome to windy Sarasota, Florida. We're here at the 2012 USA Ultimate Club Championships. I'm Maya Ziv here with Keith Rayner. We had some really exciting power pool play today, and we're going to break that down for you right now. So Keith, you had your eye on Pool F. What were some of the big games there?
Well, the game everyone's going to talk about is going to be Dragon Thrust and the Ghosts taking each other on to really capture that pool. Ghosts took a nice lead to start. They came out of half. They scored again. It was 9-6. But then Dragon Thrust really came on strong. They pulled in a couple of big upwind breaks, which, as windy as it's been today, obviously is really the name of the game, especially in mixed and in the women's side of the game. They pulled in a couple of breaks. But what was really crucial about those breaks was that they were able to contain the Ghosts' response. They had a couple of goal line stands where the Ghosts' O-line was able to work it all the way back up to the end zone, and they were able to hold them. A couple of late stall timeouts from the Ghosts. You got to wonder if maybe that had an impact on their ability to punch it in because you don't have to game plan for a lot of time when someone's coming in on stall 7, but they had some great throwers who could put it upwind. Austin Leanne, Alex Baker, another one of their big handlers, and some big receivers like James Ferran able to pull it in. So they really were able to capture those upwind points, and that really made the difference.
So how did Pool F all shake out?
Well, in the end, Dragon Thrust was able to take that game with a 3-point run. The end win 15-12 to take first in the pool. So meaning the Ghosts would take the second spot. And falling into the pre-quarters, unfortunately, with them was Odyssey, or was Slow White, excuse me. So we got to see them in a pre-quarters battle, which we'll talk about in a moment.
Yes, and actually that Odyssey game versus Slow White was really exciting. Odyssey was down the whole time and actually rallied back to take Slow White in the last final points with some really athletic play. They just kept in it, kept their heads up, and by the end, Slow White just looked defeated. Odyssey was looking ecstatic, and we'll see them in quarters tomorrow. So in the other power pool, we had Chad Larson Experience with Polar Bears, which was one of the most exciting games of today, I think. CLX just went nuts on Polar Bears. They went up early, huge athletic plays. Polar Bears were trying to work the in cuts. It just wasn't working in this wind. They started to huck it downfield and play some huck and D. Too little, too late. They couldn't catch up. CLX put that one away. Some huge plays from Kurt Burson and some of the girls, Cami Nelson and Megan Liu. Really exciting plays from both of those. So we will see CLX actually taking that pool. And then in one of the other matchups, we had Blackbird beating Polar Bears. That was a rematch of last year's final game. They ended up winning 15-12. Blackbird just got some crucial breaks in, even though Polar Bears actually took the first upwind break, which we had been talking about was really important. But Blackbird ended up responding in kind. Lots of big hucks. Brian Garcia and Eli Janin were huge for Blackbird. They also went on to face Cosa Nostra, one of the most exciting games today. Cosa Nostra was actually up the whole time. Yeah. I believe at one point the score was 10-8. Cosa Nostra was on a run, and Blackbird decided enough was enough. They fought back and ended up taking the game 15-13. There were some controversial calls in that game, some frustrations. Blackbird actually got 4 TMFs, which resulted in some yardage penalties, and actually a really crucial penalty right on the end zone line, allowing Cosa Nostra to set up an end zone play in the end zone, and they actually threw a turnover. And Blackbird just capitalized and worked it all the way back for the win there. So that pool ended up with Chad Larson on top, and then Blackbird, and then Polar Bears and Cosa Nostra falling in to the pre-quarters. So in that pre-quarters game, you had your eye on Cosa Nostra. They ended up playing American Barbecue. How did that end up?
Well, Cosa Nostra is a really scrappy team. You'd expect that from a team that's coming from the last seed overall and then succeeding at the tournament. They have some real playmakers with guys like Eric Hillis, who's been able to be both in front of and behind the disc and able to lead them from there. They also have a pretty strong big man in Dave Reinhardt. Number 33, he's made a lot of plays downfield for them. He had some great layout grabs today and has taken on some really tough matchups on the defensive side as well. But they were able to pull out that game against American Barbecue. They took a nice lead to start. They had a 10-5 lead in the second half. American Barbecue able to make it close, able to pull the game back within 2. But in the end, Cosa was able to take care of business, and now they've gone from a 16th seed into the pro flight next season.
Yeah, definitely the Cinderella story. In our other pre-quarters matchup, we had Mischief coming up to play Slow White. What an exciting comeback there, oh, yeah. Keith. Mischief down the whole game. Slow White just rolling, looking confident. Excellent throws in this wind, but the wind picked up just enough for some of Mischief throws, the deep shots really, to work for them, and they ended up taking the game game there 15-13, I believe. They ended that game with 5 breaks in a row for 6 breaks total in the second half. Incredibly exciting. Even after some late game turnovers from captain Kevin Smith close to the end zone, they were able to get enough Ds, get the disc back, and punch in that win. So let's look at our pre-quarters matchups tomorrow. We've got CLX facing Mischief. How do you see that one going out?
Well, I've been really impressed with CLX over the past 2 days, and I think one of the things that really helps them, especially on the offensive side, is that they have extremely dynamic women downfield. They're able to run with 3 women downfield and have 3 men back handling, which I think is extremely important in these windy conditions because the guys have the power to really snap and maintain possession of the disc and also be able to put it downfield. Having Magon Liu and Melissa Gibbs downfield, who have a ton of speed but can also really do damage with the disc when they get the unders, it's just creating matchup problems for teams everywhere. So I really see them being successful tomorrow with those kind of players on their offensive line.
Definitely. So Blackbird will be facing off against Odyssey. So let's talk about that really quick. You talked about the big players, Eli Janin,
Right.
Boo Garcia. Definitely solid players. Odyssey has really an aggressive style of play, and I think that's going to be a pretty contentious matchup. Hopefully they've got some observers who are ready with some calls, but both teams play incredibly passionately. They both get really frustrated when they're down, and I think the key for either will be the mental game. Who can keep their heads up? Who can stay up on top? That being said, Odyssey, never been to nationals. Blackbird, last year's champions. I'm going to call Blackbird on that one.
Yeah, you got to go with experience when you're talking about 2 teams that play a really similar style, and you got to go with the team who's already shown they can do it.
So back to the Ghosts and Polar Bears. We were talking about the Huck game for Polar Bears. For the Ghosts, excellent defenders. I think that's the biggest thing that we've seen out of them this tournament. They are going to win matchups in the air. PBR on the opposite side, excellent offense. They've struggled on defense a bit. They've struggled with some breaks, especially with their marks. But on the flip side, they've got amazing throws, really excellent break throws, and they actually rely on their dumps so much. Never a problem to get a reset. So I think if Polar Bears stay patient, they'll have those shots. The Ghosts just need to get up early, get some breaks on the board, and make it really hard for Polar Bears to stay in the game. It's really hard to call this one. I think I'm going to call Polar Bears here. I think the Polar Bears are playing with such a fire and determination. They look down a little bit today. They're going to go back to the drawing board, get their heads clear, re-strategize a few things. I think the Ghosts are feeling pretty good. A little bit down after that loss to Dragon Thrust, but I think they're feeling confident with their strategy. So we'll see who comes out on top.
Definitely, it should be another exciting day. I would agree that the Ghosts are still a little down. They know they let one get away from them with that Dragon Thrust game. It's a team that they really can move the disc well, and they can really maintain possession of the disc well with effective movement from those handlers. Misha's done a great job making a lot of plays. Even after they give the disc up, they're able to get it back. You're right about their defense. It is an aggressive defense. So we'll see who really is going to come out on top. Should be exciting.
So our last quarters matchup is Dragon Thrust versus Cosa Nostra, 2 incredibly athletic teams. What are we going to see there, Keith?
It's hard. You always see Cosa Nostra and you're like, I'm just not sure they can do it, but they just always seem to pull it off. No matter what anybody says about them on the sidelines or what we predict in the booth, they end up having success. But you're going up against a team that's coming off a lot of big games today and a lot of success. The confidence that you're going to see from Dragon Thrust, I think, is really going to help them stay up regardless of what happens on the other end. I think they're really going to be able to make a run when they need to, and they're going to be able to clamp down when they need to.
All right, well, we'll be keeping an eye on quarters tomorrow, and we will fill you guys in as we learn more. From Sarasota, Florida, at the 2012 USA Ultimate Club Championships, I'm Maya Ziv, here with Keith Rayner for Skyd Magazine.